Hello, an update from the end of summer. Here the fields have been looking really golden. It's been harvest time. On a much smaller scale, there's some grass to cut in the garden. Unfortunately, the battery for this mower has reached the end of its life, so I'm having to ask the car for a favour. I was starting to worry about having two flat batteries. You can hear the engine is hunting a bit. I will get it sorted out, but it hasn't made it to the top of the list. Amazing harvest of Mirabelle plums this year. Plenty of apples too. Looks like the pruning of the apple tree wasn't too disastrous. And maybe best of all, the figs. Towards the end of the season, the birds have also worked out that these are delicious, so we have been competing with each other to an extent, but fair enough, it's not just my tree. Another project for this time of year is trying to encourage more fritillaries to grow. There are a few dotted around, but it would be great to have more in more places, and so each year I've been collecting the seeds and spreading them around. And I may be overthinking, but I thought they'd get off to a better start if I cut the grass. I keep the back flap of this mower wired up. It means you absolutely need to wear safety goggles, but it does reduce clogging of the mower. And because the cut grass is thrown out in a fine spray, you don't really get any mounds left on the lawn. You can see this area of grass is quite rough. It hasn't had that many cuts this year, and I let it get fairly long before cutting it back late in the summer. Here are the fritillary seeds, not a bad number. I also collected some red poppy seeds from the edge of a nearby field. I have to say I haven't had much success with poppy seeds over the last few years, but it costs nothing, so let's give it a go and see what happens. These purple poppies came up as weeds in pots, but they were too nice to remove. This is a beech tree I've had for maybe 20 plus years now. I've kept it quite small, and usually it gets repotted every year, but that didn't happen last year or early this year. So rather late in the season, I decided it had to be done. This is Acer pennsylvanicum, one of the snakebark maples, a group of maples which have really beautiful stripes on their bark. I'll have to wait a few years for this one to show it. You can see what I'm talking about in this Acer dividii, which is already planted out and a few years older. I won't bore you with the repotting of every single plant, but this pot is quite interesting. It shows very well the huge variety you see when growing from seed. These maples are all from, I think, Acer palmatum, maybe a variety, but there's such a range of colour and leaf shape. Well, that's the repotting. Then there's the weeding. It's hard to keep on top of it. You can see I've been getting behind. Cyclamen hederifolium, sown 2 years ago. They're just old enough to flower now. You can see the flower bud on its long stalk, and the leaves will follow in a few weeks. They're very easy to grow from seed. The seeds appear late summer on little coiled springs. The real challenge is getting the seeds before the mice do. Leave it too late and they're all gone. You can sow them in pots. I sow them straight after collecting and then leave the pots outside for the winter. You don't even need to sow them in pots. You can just sprinkle them on the ground. Here I did exactly that in the gravel next to this wall. They're very effective at self-propagating, and in a few years you can end up with a lovely array of pink flowers, and the leaves are attractive too. Of all the weeds that turn up in pots, I find the most difficult to get rid of is oxalis. It has explosive seed pods, which are apparently excellent at seed dispersal. You can just about see the little white seeds pinging about. And when you come to pull the plant out, the leaves and stems snap off, leaving a thick but very breakable root system, which waits until you've wandered off and then simply carries on growing. On the other hand, it has a very nice cousin, Oxalis triangularis, which is grown for its leaves. Finally, nothing to do with plants, look at these baby spiders. It reminds me of Guess the Number of Sweets in the Jar. Well, that's that for now. Thanks for watching this far, and if there are parts you liked or didn't like, it'd be really good to know, and also good to know where you're watching from. In the next video I'm going to show something of the deer visiting the garden. Though really I don't know whether they're the visitors or whether I'm actually just living in their space. They're very sweet, but they're also keen, maybe you could say determined, to eat my little trees, and it can feel like a battle. I've spent a few years experimenting with what works and what doesn't, so I'm going to show where we've ended up. In the last week or so, it's started to feel very much like autumn, and I've been trying to capture the changes, so that's all to follow soon too. Until then, thanks for watching, and catch you soon.